Hey guys, fishing and stuff. Today, I got 5 more awesome fishing hacks for you. I think it's 5, Anyway, let's get this show on the road. Fishing hack number 1. Every fishing rod has a reel seat, and that's where your reel fastens to the rod. Now, some rods, like this Fenwick, fastens from the back. Just because it's a spinning rod, it doesn't really matter. I've got spinning rods that fasten from the back, and I've got them that fasten from the front. On this low profile rod, it fastens the reel onto the reel seat from the front. This is an Ugly Stick GX2, which is a really good rod for the price. Sometimes your rod seats will tend to back off and loosen up over time, and you have to keep tightening them back down. On a rod like this Hellcat, one of the things that makes it a little more expensive than other rods is it has 2 nuts. So you tighten your reel with your first nut. Your second nut locks onto your first nut to keep it from backing off. What if you don't have 2 nuts? And what if your reel keeps loosening up on your rod? Okay, let's say you got a rod and the reel seat keeps backing up on you and your reel keeps getting loose. What you can do, loosen up your reel seat holder all the way. Once you get the threads exposed, you can take some plumber's tape like this, wrap the plumber's tape around the threads that's exposed. Wrap it the same direction that your threads are going to be turning anyway, so it tightens up instead of pulling the tape off. Then take your reel, put it back into the reel seat. Lock your reel holder down, and it should run up onto that plumber's tape and wedge it in really good so that it doesn't back off anymore. That should solve our problem and stop this reel seat holder from coming loose and our reel getting loose. Some rods are harder than others to do this to, but if there's any way to do it to your rod, it should help fix your problem. I'm just saying. Fishing hack number 2. On this next hack, one of my followers, who also does YouTube, came up with a really cool DIY. This is a swinging rugby jig, and as you can see, you only get 2 of these in a pack. Well, 2 of these jigs cost $7. As you can see, this is just a jig head. But the thing about this jig head is that the hook's not hooked into it. It's actually loose so it can move around. So basically, if you're fishing this on the bottom, and let's say there's a worm on here, while it's laying there, the worm can be moving around because of this swivel that's on the jig head. And like we already discussed, these things are expensive. Well, Ted Lincoln figured out a way to make these himself. What you're gonna need is some worm hooks. That's the hook with the little bend on the end for you non-bass fishermen. And you're gonna need some very small interlocks. All I could find at my store was barrel swivels with interlock snaps on them. But I went ahead and bought them because I can cut the barrel swivels off of them. And we're gonna need some split shots. Whatever split shots you get is gonna be the size of the jig head you want it to be, if that makes sense. They look pretty dang close to me. First thing it does is take the interlock. Once you get your interlock on your hook, then we're going to take our split shot. By the way, I'm not going to be showing you every one of Ted's tricks on this video. You're going to have to go watch his video to figure out all his little secrets. While you're over there, show him some love because the guy catches some really good fish. I really think that this is a pretty dang cool idea. And I know I bought the wrong hooks, but it's the idea that matters. And this idea is pretty dang cool. And you know, even if this weight was to fall off, which I really don't think it will, but let's just say this lead fell off, you still ain't gonna lose your fish. You can just throw another split shot on there. Is this one better? Well, maybe. And if you look at the prices that I paid for these, we could pretty much make 8 of these right here for what 2 of these store-bought ones will cost. And that's really pretty dang awesome right there.
What kind of fish does the Pope eat? Holy mackerel.
Hack number 3. So I made a video a while back, and it was kind of like a pyramid weight, but I made it with a step bit. And I tried all different sorts of materials to drill it into, and it actually turned out pretty good. And these are what it produced. Well, I got to thinking, if I drilled a hole in the bottom of the mold, I could make a claw weight, which is used for surf fishing. So I got out my handy dandy hole jig, and I'm using some stainless steel TIG welding wire. Take 4 pieces of that wire and see which hole it fits through the best. This is the wire that I'm using, and I found out 4 pieces of this wire fit through 7/64 hole the best. After you figure out which hole you need, get you a drill bit that size and drill out the bottom of your mold. Now if you don't have a mold, you can go watch this video and it'll show you how to make one. It's really simple. There really ain't much to it, but I did do a lot of experimenting on that video. After you get your hole drilled, I cut 2 pieces of this TIG wire, approximately 8 inches long or so. Then I bend them in half. After you get them bent in half, then you're going to want to stick them in your mold. I put one below the lead line and one above the lead line. That way that top one, it'll kind of act as our ring, and the other one will be stuck in the lead and won't never move. Now the rest of our wire is going to be sticking through the mold. You see how tight that is? That way our lead won't run out the bottom. Well, next I took a piece of 2-inch square tubing and I cut me a chunk off of it. All I did was make sure that it was long enough for our wires to fit in. Once you get your piece of square tubing cut off, now we can set up our square tubing. We can take our mold with our wires, and that way our wires don't get in the way. After you get this thing out of your mold, you got yourself a claw sinker. And I'll be honest with you, the hole you drill in the bottom, you probably want to go up a couple of more sizes. You don't want the hole humongous. It was very hard to get this out of this mold. When you're finished, you got yourself what you call a claw sinker. These sinkers work great for surf fishing, but I'm sure there's other ways you could use them as well. Fishing hack number 4. On this next hack, you're gonna need a bucket. And no, this ain't part of my bucket hack video, although I probably should have put it on there. And we're gonna need a cast net. And if you've never used a cast net, they are freaking awesome for catching live bait.
Oh, shit. Joe, I'm feeling good about this one. It's a mixed bag.
We're going to take the cast net. We're going to put it in the bucket. Once you get your cast net in your bucket, we're going to take a bottle of fabric softener, pour it in there. Now, if anything's sticking up and not covered up by the fabric softener, add water to it until you get it all under the water. If you put your net in first and have your weights up on top the way I did, it'll keep it submerged under the water. But I was talking to a buddy that does YouTube too, Hagen Grubbs. Hagen uses a cast net a lot and he's great at throwing one. I was talking to him and we come to the general consensus,
Oh my God,
that you should probably use non-scented fabric softener, because he said the last time he did it, his boat smelled like game, which ain't a bad thing, but you don't want your bait to smell like game. That's the problem. We're gonna let our net set in fabric softener for at least 12 hours or as long as 24 hours. After our cast net has set for 12 to 24 hours, we're going to take it out of the fabric softener and we're going to hang it up and let it dry. After you're done with your cast net and it's good and dry, you can roll it back up and put it in the bucket. And the next time you use it, you'll notice a difference in the way it opens up.
what's the richest fish in the world? A goldfish.
Fishing hack number 5. On this hack, it's not actually a fishing hack, but it is a camera hack. I know somebody's gonna be like, cameras don't have nothing to do with fishing. But actually, you'd be wrong. Cameras are used a lot in fishing nowadays, not just for social media, but kayak fishermen don't have live wells. They use cameras to measure their catch, to see who wins. I even got a buddy that's a professional bass fisherman, and they have to use a GoPro and record themselves now. Not to mention social media. Everybody's posting pictures of the fish they catch on social media. Personally, my favorite camera is on my cell phone. I use my cell phone a lot. But the one thing that doesn't change with any of these cameras, there's always tricks you can use to run one. And on this hack here, I'm going to show you how to use a camera in low light. When you're picking what to run your camera in on your phone or on anything else, there's something on every camera called FPS, frames per second. Most people that I hear on social media get a GoPro and they say run it on 60 frames per second, and that's wrong. You actually run your frames per second according to what you're doing with your footage. If you want some of that silky smooth slow motion, then you should probably run your frames per second at like 120. If you're taking action shots that's really fast paced and you don't want any motion blur in it, then you should run it at 60 frames per second. I actually do my videos at 30 frames per second because it's the most natural to your eyesight. But when you're out there at night fishing and you want good footage, that was the first one I threw out. So chicken. Oh, flathead. Call flathead on chicken. That's not crazy. One thing you're gonna need is a good light. A good light's always important. But if you don't have a good light, you can change your frames per second to make up for it. I stuck my light over there in my boat, and I'm gonna cut the overhead light off, and it's gonna be pretty dim. Now you see what I'm talking about. It's not totally dark, but it's dim. Now I'm gonna record it with my camera at 30 frames per second. And then I'm going to record it at 60 frames per second. Now I'm going to put them side by side, 30 frames per second and 60 frames per second. And you should be able to see the difference in how dark the footage is. One reason I like using a cell phone to record is because something else cool that you can do with your phone is you can cut on the light and you can see a whole lot better. I'm just saying. So, if you want better footage when you're fishing at night, change your frames per second from 60 to 30 or 24, and it'll lighten up your footage a whole lot. This is just a basic way to help your low light footage without getting into shutter speeds, apertures, ISO, and all that complicated stuff. Also, if you're somebody that uses a GoPro to film your footage at night, I'm going to put some settings on the screen that work really great for GoPros in low light. So hit pause, write these settings down, and put them in your camera. If you like these fishing hacks, then I got a bunch more hack videos you're gonna like as well. So go check them out. I'm serious, go check them out. This one's over.